Welcome back to 10 Grams Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today I'm going to talk about minimizing randomness. What I mean by this is, although Star Wars Destiny is a game that incorporates both dice and cards, I think there are two ways to play this game. One way is to engage randomness. Do things like, I'm going to run Jango Fett, I'm going to put 3 jetpacks on him, you roll your dice, I will respond. I may blow you out of the building without you able to do anything, but I may whiff and then go down in a blaze of glory as Jango dies. Now, another way I think that you can play this game, and the way that I enjoy to play this game more, is to try to minimize the effects of randomness. When I say minimize randomness, obviously we can't take randomness away entirely, but I think there are a lot of ways in which we can minimize the impact of it. First of all, decks are only 30 cards, and there's a really generous mulligan system. You can choose any 5 cards and toss them back for 5 new ones. So this is a great way to begin doing what you want to do right from the start. And what I mean by this is, let's say you are a hero deck, and you really want something like Jedi robes to be able to give you 2 shields, and then your plan is to play it and then immediately overwrite it with another upgrade. Well, you can hard mulligan for that and have a really good chance of getting it. On the flip side, the villains may want to do the same thing with the Sith Holocron. Alright, another way to really try to minimize randomness is to have a deck that doesn't rely on any dice sides. And that might sound crazy, right? You need damage to win this game. That's not entirely true, though. If you saw a few videos I put out recently, you saw that I really like these decks that have a mill variant as well. Vader's awesome. He can kill people, but he can also mill them out if the game goes too long. And so what I mean by this is, at the end of the game, when you run out of cards in your hand and you run out of cards in your deck, when the next upkeep phase rolls around, you've lost the game. And so if you have a deck that can either kill somebody with damage or just roll effects that take cards away, or use somebody like Vader whose ability slowly peels cards away, you have a method in which you can win by whatever the dice give you and by being flexible. And I really like this aspect of Star Wars Destiny, that you can be flexible and not just have to pray to the Force to roll the exact dice you need at any particular time. In addition to being flexible, you can also be not flexible and still minimize randomness. Let's say you're running something like Luke and his sides are bonkers and you need to roll his good sides. Well, you can include a whole pile of different cards that have focus on them, so that when you don't roll the good side on Luke, you have a really good chance of being able to focus him with cards like Comlink or Jedi Robes or One with the Force, which, by the way, is insane with Luke. 3 focus, oh my goodness. One of the best things you can do is have something like Luke and Rey, and if they go for Rey, you put One with the Force on her right before she dies, and then you're just focusing all of Luke's sides to the good side and just bombarding him. But these focus dice can be really, really critical for letting you get off the rolls you need. So it's not just roll, did not hit the sides I wanted, I got to discard all the cards in my hand, continuing to hope. By having these cards that focus, it can really help you. And then the dark side has this amazing opportunity in Power of the Dark Side, where it's not a focus, but they get a free reroll, and it's a reroll at the plus side. So you take somebody like the Stormtrooper, who a lot of people look at the Stormtrooper and say their dice are weak. They have 2 blanks. That may be true, but they have 3 sides with damage. And if you couple it with Power of the Dark Side, they have 5 damage sides. That is, the most damage on any die in the game. So something like Power of the Dark Side, it minimizes the randomness in that roll. It makes it so that now you have 5 sides that are rolling damage. Another way to minimize the randomness is to have cards in your deck that specifically target your opponent's dice and get rid of them entirely. This is one of the most powerful things you can do in the game, if not the most powerful, is to simply say, those dice of yours that you rolled, those Luke dice, they look amazing. What if I play the best defense and strip off 2 of them? And now you have no Luke dice, and this Stormtrooper takes 3 damage, and he had 2 shields anyway, and so he took 1 damage. Okay, that seems fair. So there are a whole pile of cards already spoiled, and tons more I'm sure that will be spoiled, and these cards can be really useful in mitigating that randomness. Yes, your opponent got a god roll, and it looks like you're dead, but there are all kinds of different ways to take advantage of this. Probably the most brutal is Deflect. Deflect is just a mean card. Like, yes, I did it. I rolled the 4-side damage on Falcon. And you just go, oh, that's cool. No, but I'll deflect the damage. It's going to be 2 to Rey and kill her. And then now you're just left with Han, or however it is that you do this. Deflect can be one of the most punishing cards in the game, because anytime you can take your opponent's, triumphant jubilation and throw it in their face as damage, it feels amazing. Flank is another card like that. It's not quite as strong as Deflect, but it also doesn't have to be range damage. It can be any die that your opponent rolled. That was amazing. And Feel Your Anger is super strong. When I first read this card, I didn't read it correctly, but what it is, it's count the number of blanks showing and then remove that many of their dice. It's not their blanks, it's any dice you want. So they roll, let's say they have a loaded up Luke. He's got 5 dice on him. Whoosh, chuck them all out. 2 blanks, 3 awesome dice. You pull off 2 of the awesome dice, and that roll went from pretty dang good to really bad, really fast. And I'm sure we're going to see a ton more cards like this. But these cards are really critical in any deck that's trying to reduce randomness. Just pulling cards away entirely. Another type of card that you can play to minimize the randomness are cards that spin sides. These cards aren't quite as brutal and powerful as the ones that completely remove dice, but they're still really strong. And cards like Force Choke and Force Throw are incredibly strong because they're repeatable. Yes, you have to get lucky, right? You have to roll a 1 in 3 to be able to do this control, but having a card like that on your character that is continually turn after turn after turn threatening to be able to either spin something down with Force Choke or just remove it entirely with Force Throw is really powerful. And then a card like Immobilize, I mean, there's a reason why in the cards that have been spoiled so far, many consider this to be the best of them, because it not only does it have great dice. For a cheap cost, you can get a shield pretty much every turn, maybe 2. But if you need to, if you get in a pinch, you can just take its die off the field and spin another die down to a blank. That is incredibly powerful. And then you have a card like Use the Force, which is really great because it's flexible. Not only does it reduce the randomness for what happened to you by your opponent, but it can also really hose your opponent because you can do it offensively. So many times I've punished people by, you kind of slow play your turn, right? You got like a blank Luke die out there. It looks so gentle and peaceful, and you do all kinds of other stuff, and then you do a reroll and it comes up blank again, and it looks like you're screwed and your opponent doesn't have any dice anymore, and they're just like, I'll claim the battlefield, thinking, you're probably just going to move on, and you go, use the Force, I'll spin Luke to a 3, boom, 3 to the face. That's a really brutal turn of offense, and I think we're going to see a lot more cards like this. So the bottom line is, I think Star Wars Destiny is such a fun game because it can be played in multiple ways. You can do things like, let's do this. Let's play Disturbance in the Force. You rolled some good dice, I rolled some bad dice. Wow, all the dice come back out. And your opponent gets all blanks, and you cheer wildly, and all your dice come up max damage. But when you do that, the exact opposite can happen, right? Your opponent can roll all damage and just go, so that was your action. My action is to kill your best guy. Cool, that was fun. So you can approach it this way, or you can approach it from a whole nother vantage point, which is trying to control the game and exert some sense of order on the in-order that is dice and cards. And I think Destiny allows you to do that. There are enough paths to do that. And for me, that's what makes the game so fun, is this process that I continually have of how can I best control the dice, the deck, everything. And I can't wait to see more cards that allow me to do this. Maybe some cards, more cards that say, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. put 2 back to kind of cycle even a bit more and control that deck a little bit more in addition to the dice. So hopefully you're having as much fun as Star Wars Destiny as I am, and I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games.